Dude, you are getting well. Welcome, dudes, to Dude, You're Getting Well. I'm so excited for our very special guest today. He has been traveling the world. He is the founder and CEO of Spartan. And turns out we also have a dear mutual friend. Without further ado, this is Joe Sena. Hey, Joe, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, dude. I love it.
It's exciting. Joe, we've been trying to track you down for about 6 months. You've been traveling the world quite a bit. What have you been up to? And you just got back from Ukraine not too long ago, right?
Yeah, we put on events in 45 countries, and I'm a big believer in seeing people face to face. And
Mm.
I'm old school, and so it's not uncommon for me to just jump on a flight and head somewhere. 12-hour flight, land, shake somebody's hand, jump on a plane, and come home. So yeah, I apologize. I was in Abu Dhabi. I've been in Europe. I've been in Latin America, and then we just did an amazing thing in Ukraine. So it's been tough to get us together.
Yeah. Well, no, I'm excited. I mean, you're up to things, and no apologies needed. You're really out there making a difference in the world. I think there's very few people who are actually going to shake hands and connect with people right now in person. And I've seen you be really a force to be reckoned with, to inspire others to get out there and do that. So to me, it's inspiring. So I'm really grateful to see men doing that. And I hope when I grow up, I get to be like you too.
When you grow up, I was thinking it was my birthday yesterday, and I'm 54.
Happy birthday.
Thanks. I woke up middle of the night. I woke up at like 2 a.m. and I started thinking about, oh my God, 54. 21 years is going to go by pretty damn fast. I'll be 75. And then I thought, we should just eliminate birthdays. Like, if I didn't know I was 54, then I probably wouldn't even care. Right? We
Right.
should just be born and then die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, well, however long it takes, it takes.
Yeah. But then I guess it would be, yeah, I like that. I wonder if suddenly it'd be a flash and you're in your deathbed and you're like, well, that was quick. Or if it would be a lot longer, you know?
I just I just don't think you need to act like if you
Mm.
don't know you're 54, like I'm 35,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, I love it. I'm about to go to Costa Rica to lead a wellness retreat for musicians, and the founder of it's 60, and he taught me to surf, and he surfs every day. So he's like my big brother, and I always try to surf with someone at least 10 or 20 years older than me because it's really inspiring. It's like, you just do your thing. If he didn't know how old he was, he wouldn't have, he's just gonna surf. It's like, who cares about what my birthday is? I love that.
Yeah. When I was 45, I bicycled across the US with a 65-year-old, a buddy of mine.
Wow.
He crushed me. He crushed me. Every hill was competitive the entire way across the United States. He beat me every time. And so yeah, the new 75 is the new 55, right?
Yeah, I love it. That's my goal right now. I started working as a personal trainer and yoga instructor with people who are in their 80s and 90s who are working out, and that's what really inspired me to get an exercise. But what had you start to take your wellness this seriously? Were you just born this way? Or are you always like, let's crush it?
I
Come out
definitely
of the
was.
womb like,
Yeah,
let's go.
I definitely was an let's crush it kind of guy. I remember at a very, very young age, like if sunlight hit my face, I'm remembering my room growing up
Hmm.
in the neighborhood where I know our mutual friend, and the sunlight hit my face like 8 years old. I would sit up like a rope and I had to go do stuff. I couldn't miss life. Like if the
Hmm.
sun was going to be up, and life was going to be happening, I had to be there. So that was innate. I don't know where that came from.
Do you remember
Um,
how old you were when you in that
I mean,
earliest
I had to be.
memory?
I can remember the room. So in that room, I was like 7 or 8 years old. So very young age. This wiring was intact to just go suck every ounce of marrow out of life. But then but it wasn't marrow. It was sausage and peppers and raviolis and cannolis and stuff because we grew up in an Italian neighborhood and
Mm,
that's what we knew. My mom, around the time I was, yeah, around that time, she became a vegan. She started meditating. She was teaching meditation, teaching yoga, which was very, very weird, very new at the time in the
mm,
70s. And and then although I was pushing back, my sister, we were all pushing back. My family didn't want any part of it. She was considered a nutcase. Um, that would be the beginning, though, of the health and wellness journey, for sure. What else would you know? Like if that hadn't happened, if my mom hadn't brought that into the house, like, well, I wouldn't know any different. Velveeta cheese is good. Being, sitting idle is good. I like what? How would I know?
yeah, yeah. What was were you a popular kid? Were you picked on or bullied? Like, what was it like for you as a kid?
I am in this Italian neighborhood. I had red hair and light skin. I was
Mm,
all Italian, but for some reason, I just didn't. I didn't look like them. Right?
yeah,
Everybody else had like olive complexion and dark hair, and they just looked tougher. Somehow, though, I was pretty good with the tongue, and I was like a go between the cool kids, the new kids. I kind of stayed friends with everybody.
yeah,
Wasn't tough, wasn't as tough, wasn't super athletic, was a little pudgy, um, for my liking, and I think the beginning of figuring out my purpose for at least a decade at that time, 70s, 80s, was am I tough enough? And then
mm,
testing myself, to see if I was, because in this neighborhood where I grew up, this Italian neighborhood, like folks that we aspired to be as kids, they all went to jail. And so if you're watching people go to jail and you're being told a narrative that like you can't rat out and you got to do your time and that's how you make your bones, then you start thinking, okay, that's a path I'm on. That's going to be my college degree, going to jail. Am I tough enough? I lost you. You went dark. I see you,
thank
but
you,
there you go. You're
thank
back.
you. I just hit mute. Did you
Yep.
see a path for yourself when you were a kid, like with that
I
those
don't.
guys
I
you see going to prison? Did you see
I
what did you want to be when you grew up?
wanted to have money. I didn't know. I wanted to have money. I mean, I wanted to own a
Mm,
business. I wanted, because everybody in the neighborhood either had a business or or they were in organized crime, and so I wanted to have a nice house. We definitely over indexed in that neighborhood with nice things, material things. So
mm,
I wanted all that. The family. Um, I liked work. Like I said, I liked waking up. Or I just liked work. So you had to like work. By the way, if you were from this neighborhood or you lived in this neighborhood, you either got left behind or you got with the program.
mm.
So yeah, I don't know. It was awesome, right? The trucks were being started at early hours in the morning, because we weren't far from Kennedy Airport. The bagels were being buttered, coffee was being made, like it was like Hustlers Row, you know.
Wow. And that was what part of the country was that?
That was Howard Beach, Queens. That was
Howard Beach.
organized crime capital of the world.
Wow. Wow. And how did you go from Howard Beach, Queens to the CEO of Spartan and traveling the world like this?
Well, it wasn't a direct line. It was mom and dad got divorced, and mom was not accepted in the neighborhood because of all these crazy, outlandish ideas of yoga, meditation, et cetera, being a
Oh,
vegan. So
interesting.
she moved to a place that was more accepting, which was Ithaca, New York, 5 hours away. My sister and I went there kicking and screaming. We didn't want any part of it. But once we got there, we made friends like kids do, and most of the kids in our school were children of professors that were professors at Cornell or Ithaca College. It was definitely a more cerebral town. but less hustle. And I planned on getting back to the neighborhood. I just wanted to get, when I graduated high school, I had no intention of going to college, but I met a guy in school, a kid whose dad was a professor at Cornell, and he said, "Hey, why don't we go to Cornell?" And I said, "How the hell would we do that? My grades aren't that good." He said, "Well, my dad's a professor; he'll get us in." That made sense to me because in the neighborhood, we always had a guy that could help us get something
I
done.
know a guy.
I know a guy, so we both applied, and neither of us got in. But now I was intrigued. Now I was on a path to, how the hell do I go to this school? Because I could really stand out in the neighborhood if I have an Ivy League degree. So anyway,
And
I hustled.
Ithaca is in Cornell. I mean, Cornell is in
Cornell's in,
Ithaca, right? Yeah.
Cornell's in Ithaca. So I hustled. I worked hard, and somehow got into Cornell. Graduated, went back to the neighborhood, ran a business in the neighborhood. Planned on marrying a girl and just settling down in the neighborhood and doing what neighborhood guys do, but with this degree. And someone that I had met in Ithaca at Cornell, an older gentleman, guided me. He continued to call me while I was back in the neighborhood throughout the early 90s. Every month, literally the first of every month for 48 months, he called me and he said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I'm running my business. I got to grow. Everything's great." He said, "When are you going to get out of the neighborhood? You got to go to Wall Street." And I said, "Al, come on, stop. Like, what the hell am I going to do on Wall Street? I don't know anybody." Anyway, he pushed me, and I ended up selling the business in the neighborhood. I crossed the river and made it into Manhattan, and ended up going to Wall Street and building an equity and derivative trading firm. And had a great run. And I had to pinch myself that here was this Queens guy that somehow made it into college and then somehow made it across the river into Manhattan.
Wow. And that really takes something. I have a few friends who've gone in finance in that part of the town too, and it's a really, especially then too. It's an intense place. Did you thrive there, or did you feel like it was did it push you? Did it break you? What was the experience coming out of that? It sounds like, I mean, you started a great business, successful.
Well, I struggled in the beginning
Mm.
because, I didn't know. I couldn't answer three phones at once. I couldn't do the math fast enough. Um, so I definitely struggled in the beginning, but then I figured it out and I applied the principles that I had learned in the neighborhood, right? These hustle, um, these serve. Like I knew how to serve customers and potential customers and take care of folks and service clients. And it ended up becoming a decent sized business we built on Wall Street in finance and sold that. Um, was kind of burnt out. It had been a long time of chasing money and chasing, how do I get ahead? And 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 I was back to where my mother started me with this health and wellness stuff. And the elevator was busted one day in our building, and I had to take the stairs. And I was walking up the stairs, and I met a guy who was on the cover of Men's Health, and he looked super fit, and he had his shirt off, and he was carrying dumbbells up the stairs. And I started talking to him as we climbed, 13 flights and or 30 flights. I forget how many flights it was. And he inspired me again to, like, all right, you're making money, you're doing 2 dinners a night. What the hell are you doing? Let's get healthy. Let's focus. And so before you know it, I was doing yoga, the very thing that I was pushing against pushing back on against my mom for decades.
Hmm.
And I was doing Bikram hot yoga. It had to be hot and torturous for me to be interested.
Yeah.
And I was running stairs, and then I found out about these crazy races where you could run across an entire country with a kayak and bike and be self-supported and carry your own food. These adventure races, I fell in love with those, and I just went on this journey. It was really a yogi vegan meditative practice wrapped in a Spartan helmet and cloak.
That's fascinating. Yeah, with the guy from Howard Beach.
That's right.
It's so interesting that you found that. And you also mentioned this hustle. I mean, clearly you've had this drive since you were born. And you also mentioned burnout, right? And sometimes this hustle mentality can lead to burnout. So, how do you balance all that stuff for people, for guys who, most of us, I think, any of us who have fathers who are, you know, not millennials, right, or older, basically, uh, or who have had parents in that time, or and our parents were in the depression era, or their parents, right, and so a lot of that's been passed down. You just work hard. That's just what you do. And so for those people who've been taught that like that's the only way to receive love or validation is work hard, but it's leading to that burnout, right? What do you say to them, or how do you balance that?
Well, I'm the wrong guy to ask about work-life balance because I believe in work-life integration. Like I I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just my beliefs, right? My
Mm-hmm.
belief is I love hard work. And I remember my father when he would hit burnout moments, he would check himself into a hotel room and watch movies for 48 hours and probably eat the wrong foods and then be recharged and get back in the game. Um, I might do that, but I I don't burn out like my dad did. I mean, I definitely hit my moments because I work out like crazy. I was in a sauna and a steam room this morning, right? I got a tremendous workout and I took the cold shower. So I'm integrating these age old techniques into my life so that I could, because I really enjoy the process. I really enjoy the grind. If I'm not grinding, I'm not happy. That doesn't mean everybody is wired that way, right? They're not. Even members of my own family, my close, you know, family are not wired that way. But oh my God, I get so much satisfaction by getting something done each day. And I don't believe most people get the same satisfaction when they're complacent, when they're not driving towards something. So I'm definitely the wrong guy to ask on like, hey Joe, shouldn't we all just slow down? And no, no, we should push harder.
Mm.
We should grind more. But make sure you're eating well. Make sure you're taking care of yourself. Um, you know, don't do the TV dinners and the donuts and all the garbage. So maybe a slightly different perspective from me.
Yeah, well, I appreciate hearing that perspective. It's one of the reasons why I was excited to have you as a guest too, because I know you offer that, and I really like to hear everyone's perspective on that. So I really do appreciate that. Um, what's been the biggest challenge or loss you faced on your journey from Howard Beach to today? Like, what stands out?
Well, going back, taking the other side of what I just said to you, I've been grinding and I enjoy it so much for 40 plus years that I probably missed some weddings I shouldn't have. I probably missed some funerals I shouldn't have. I probably missed some conversations I shouldn't have. But but I drive so hard and I put um work first, all this, whether it's work out or just activity. I just love being active because, I saw my mom and dad die at relatively young ages. And so it's coming. None of us get out alive. And I could be wrong, but I'm a believer like at the end, when we're sitting down, if we're doing this podcast, 30, 40 years from now on a rocking chair on a porch, I don't I don't believe I'm going to say I wish we watched more Netflix. I wish we ate more popcorn. I think we're going to say, "Man, I could have done a little more." Like one recurring dream I've had my whole life is that I need to get more done. Like I almost feel like I'm being held back. I need more done. I got to be more active.
Mm.
Um but again, I'm wired. I'm strange.
I love it. What is your biggest dream? Is there one that you see for yourself? Like, if I could achieve this, maybe I'd. What would that look like?
My next big thing I got to get done is a full featured movie. I wrote a fiction book that weaves fact and fiction together from ancient Sparta, and I want to turn it into a really full featured, unbelievable film, Chris Nolan type movie. So that's a big one I want to get done. I feel like
Oh,
I feel like somehow I cracked health and wellness. I cracked finance. But I haven't figured out Hollywood. I got to get that done.
well, I've been in Hollywood, so if you need any advice, hit me up.
I need it. I need the
All right.
contacts.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I've got my foot back in the door a little bit there today, as I'm still doing some acting and working with Dell again, and actually speaking to some producers about some films now. So maybe we can talk after this for sure. I love to see people's dreams come true and facilitate that, and I love that you're thinking about, like, yeah, man, let's make it a movie. You're writing a book. Um, what advice would you give to anyone who wants to start their own business today, or any man that's you know feeling that resistance to pushing through, or to going after their dreams? It feels like they just gotta make ends meet. Like, how do you add more to the what we're already, those people who are in overwhelm or just shut down? Like, what advice would you give to them?
A couple of things. One is you can't be in a situation where you're surviving with another job and like your toe is in the water with the business. Like, you're never going to actually do it. In my opinion, you've got to like not have a plan B. I like to say burn the boats and be all in. You could
Hmm.
always go back and get that job. It's certainly easier if you're younger and you're not married to do it this way. That's how I was lucky enough to do it that way. Um, I'm a big believer in fire, ready, aim. Like, take the shot, then get ready, and then aim. Because if you sit around and you get ready and you talk yourself in and out of it, and then you aim, you might not ever fire. And the only reason that saying exists is because it used to take like a minute to reload a musket and gunpowder, and we got one shot at a time. But today you could take 100 shots a minute, and you could recover from. So go public with it, lay it all out on the line if you find yourself in a situation where you can, because again, depending on what your family situation looks like, and just take the shot. What's the worst that happens? You go get a job.
I love that. I love that. That's great advice. um has there ever been a time recently, with all the fortitude and action you take in your life, has there ever been a time where you didn't feel like enough, or you didn't have what it takes to get through or to push on?
Of course, every day. This morning I didn't have enough to get my push-ups done, but I pushed through. But it's every day. I mean, the brain, this big mass inside of our skull, is trying to shut us down all day, every day. It requires a lot of energy to run. It's always feeling that when we expend that energy, it's threatened. And so I don't feel like enough all day, every day. And I
Mm.
push and I push and I push. And sometimes I get there, and sometimes I don't. I've recently learned that later in the day, towards the end of the day, rather than getting wound up about what wasn't achieved or this or that, is I'm better off just going to bed and starting over in the morning,
Mm.
clean slate. And every time I do that, it's better.
Yeah.
It always works out better.
Have you ever do you meditate now, or do you have yoga in your practice now?
I do yoga, not enough, and I meditate before I go to bed, which is not very common. But for me, what I found is by shutting my eyes and really honing in and really focusing, it puts me to sleep, which is what
Mm.
which is what I want to do.
Yeah, it's a
You
lot of,
know?
I mean, meditation is to help calm or train our mind, right? I
Yeah.
love to meditate before I go to bed.
Yeah,
So I think that's a great practice. But you're like, I can't do it. I'll fall asleep. Great. Do it before you go to bed. It's great.
exactly.
Maybe you'll fall asleep. And if you do, you probably need the sleep. Um, and thank you for just, sharing that, being honest about not feeling enough. I think we see so many messages out there of people just, being lying about that, but it doesn't mean that you can't take action, right? And that's really what I believe courage is taking that action anyway. You've talked about the Spartan. Is it the Spartan complex? The with the can't remember the exact word. It's this. It's one of the Spartan mindsets about your brain and how
Oh, the paradox.
the paradox. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. The Spartan paradox. I saw something about that. Will you share? That relates to this, I believe. Will you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, most people, we've had 10 million people do a Spartan or a Tough Mudder throughout the years. And so I've had hundreds of thousands of conversations, literally. And most people will say, yeah, someday I would do that, but I got to get in shape first.
Mm,
And what you fail to realize is you're not going to get in shape for the reasons we said earlier, right? The brain doesn't want you to do the work. You're going to face that
mm,
resistance. But when you put a date on the calendar and you're committed and you go public with it, you're now backed into a corner. It's actually more painful for the brain now to not do the work. So you put a date on the calendar, just like a boxer. Once a boxer knows he or she has a fight coming up, they
yeah.
start training like they mean it, right? Once
Yeah.
a student knows they have a test coming, they start studying like they mean it. So you get a date on the calendar, everything falls in place. That's the Spartan paradox.
I love that. And that relates so well to artists too, because I talk to a lot of creatives as a musician too. I'm like, hey, you need to practice, like book a show. That's when I
That's
couldn't
right.
practice. I'd just like book a one man show and be like, well, if I don't practice, I'm screwed. So I better get to it.
That's
I
right.
love that you just put yourself in that place. I hear accountability, and I'm, I would assume to say, assert that maybe you don't do this alone. Like you don't run your company alone.
No,
Uh,
we have a big team. We have a big team, and nobody gets anything big done alone. And that's another thing, right? We should surround ourselves with uplifting people,
mm,
folks that they say you're an average of your five best friends, and so don't pull the average down. Surround yourself with people that are smarter, better, faster. They're going to pull you up.
I love that. Yeah, and I think a lot of men get taught that, and probably women too, just because of the way society is that we have to, do things alone. Most of the men I talk to face that still, like afraid to work together and aren't comfortable working together. So I appreciate that mentality, especially after the pandemic. It seems like a lot of people are afraid to connect again. I'm speaking in generalizations, obviously, but I see you out and about. It hasn't seemed to stop you.
No, no, that's right. I think when you do things with other people, I mean, look at our business. We push people to do hard stuff, and they typically come out with 4, 5, 7, 10 friends. There are moments where every one of those people is going through a tough time, and others lift you up and get you through it. So, um, any chance you get to do stuff together with others, do it.
Hmm. And for those people who don't know about Spartan, if there's anyone out there left who still doesn't know, could you tell them a little bit about what that is and your organization?
Yeah, but I mean, basically, we're the house of hard, right? We've got Tough Mudder, we've got Spartan, we've got Trail, we've got Deca, we've got all these brands that are vents. They're military inspired. Once you sign up for them, like we said, you're on the hook. You're going to train. You're going to do everything you can to get ready. Once the gun goes off and you're actually participating in one of these events, you're climbing, you're crawling, you're jumping, you're in cold water. Some people listening right now are saying, "Oh my God, that sounds terrible." Um, it's actually amazing. It's not amazing while it's happening, but when you cross the finish line, you are a different human being.
Hmm.
You've found integrity, you found community, you found resilience, grit. You've changed your frame of reference. The next time you're complaining that you don't like what your better half made you for dinner or whatever, you're not going to complain because you're saying, "Well, at least I'm not crawling under barbed wire right now." So, you know, everybody needs a little more hard in their life to appreciate. If we have everything, we appreciate nothing. We have nothing, we appreciate everything. So I give you a bit of that feeling of nothing
Hmm.
for a half a day.
Hmm. Hmm. And I really appreciate you sharing all of that and that exciting inspiration. I remember when all of these organizations were starting to rise, and it was really confronting for me. And I was an athlete. I was like, why do I need to go do this thing to prove anything? And I didn't really get it at first until I saw like these like profound, even emotional breakthroughs people were coming back having. Just like you said, I don't know how many people have been put in those situations that are actually willing to like risk it all, give it all for someone else today. And I find people are really resistant to that. What do you, for those people who maybe have gotten out of shape? You know, you mentioned like why not just stay in shape sometimes for these things. Um, I'd watched a video earlier with you talking about Rocky Balboa, right? And those trainers who fall out of shape and then have to get back in shape again. For those people who have fallen out of shape, what do you feel like? What's some advice you can give them today? What's a good place to start?
Well, I mean, fitness does start in the kitchen, right? So you want to eat healthy. I tell everybody a little more salad is good. It is funny the attacks you might get on social media about meat. Eat more meat, eat more meat, more protein, and look, I think meat and fish are fine, but I would say if I had one bit of advice around diet, it's just more salad,
Mm-hmm.
more real food, and maybe
More
maybe that
real food, yeah.
right, and maybe that would push some of the factory made stuff, the processed foods out of your life. Um, as far as exercise goes, you don't have to do that much. I mean, if you walked a mile a day, if you took stairs instead of an elevator when possible, if you knocked out, 30 of the best push-ups you could muster and 30 of the best pull-ups you could muster every day. I was with an 85-year-old guy the other day. He said, listen, here's a secret, Joe, to living a long, healthy life. He said, you've got to be out of breath every day. Get yourself out of breath. He said,
Mm.
you got to be cold every day. Take a cold shower, do whatever, get cold. And then he said, definitely stay a little hungry. You shouldn't be, stuffed all day, every day with food. So my message would be, get out of breath, end it with a cold shower, and eat more salad.
I love it. Those are three things I love to do. So I think that's great advice. Um, what have those made possible for you?
What say that again? What? Oh,
Like,
what
like,
has it? Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I think look, at 54 years old, I'm incredibly active. I feel healthy. I feel like a bull. Um, and that then translates into how you act and every day and interact with others. So so by doing that, it starts your day on the right foot. It gives me more energy. It gives me more clarity. It helps me communicate with others better. So
Mm.
um, it's not the six pack or any of that. It's really just like gaining some momentum in my day.
Yeah, I like that. And starting early. I hear you get up pretty early too. What time do you wake up?
Yeah, I'm up, just before 5. I love getting it done early, and now the science shows. Like again, you get social media pushback. Oh, well, you don't have to do it or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, for me, early is better. But now I'm seeing the science that the benefit biologically is so much better if done in the morning before
Hmm.
breakfast.
Yeah. Yeah. When you get your cortisol levels up early, right? And
Yeah.
actually use that. Um, that's great advice. And so you've talked a lot about the physical body and the outside work and all of that. How do you deal with your mental health? Like mental unwellness is, depression and mental health issues are really on the rise right now, especially for men. Like men have the highest rate of suicide still. how do you deal with mental health, or what advice do you
I mean,
give for people who are struggling with that?
I would say anybody listening, I would say it's really hard to be mentally unhealthy if you're following the protocol we just spoke about. Like if you're
Mm-hmm.
clocking, 5 or 10 miles a day that you're running, if you're doing some body weight exercise, if you're taking a cold shower, if you're eating more salad, I promise you, your mind is going to be 10 times more organized, more healthy than if you're not.
Mm-hmm.
So like what I say to people is the brain lives inside of this body, and the body's mostly water. And if that water is not moving, like imagine a swimming pool that doesn't have like filtration going on, they turn the pump off and the water's not being filtered. And that pool, is loaded with French fries and coffee and leaves and burgers. And like I said, it's not being that pool's green before you know it, right? It's black maybe. And that brain lives inside that swimming pool, our swimming pool. It's probably not the healthiest brain you can have. So look, you may be more susceptible to negative thoughts or whatever, but I just said to some family members, they went through a really tough thing in their personal lives. And I said, you got to exercise. And that comes across as Joe, Joe just tells everybody to exercise. And it's like, I said to myself, like, what's the alternative? Is the alternative drinking? Is the alternative taking drugs? Is the alternative like being depressed? Like, those are not good alternatives. The only thing you can do is what I just said. The other options are not good ones.
Wow. Yeah. Have you ever struggled with drugs or alcohol?
No, I never. I'm so lucky. I never liked the taste of alcohol. I can barely drink coffee. I don't like the taste. I saw a scene in The Godfather when I was a kid where Marlon Brando tells his children, this family doesn't touch drugs. And for whatever reason, it really made an impact on me at a young age. Like, oh, the boss said we don't touch drugs. And so if I don't touch drugs, I'm playing at a higher level. And so, yeah, it really affected me in a positive
Yeah.
way.
Yeah. That's great. Yeah, that is a gift. So mostly for we're talking about the mental health too. I just wanted to add one more thing to that. Do you ever go through tough times mentally, and how do you deal with it if you do? Is it
I
just getting back in the gym?
I
Do you ever make any different kind of space for your mental or emotional health
I
besides exercise?
I have my whole life, my whole family's life, my personality, my reputation, everything woven into this business, Spartan, right?
Mm.
We were shut down during the pandemic. I got shut down in 45 countries. I had 450,000 people wanted their money back. They signed up for a race they couldn't participate in because I was told by the governments around the world I couldn't host these races.
Wow.
I had employees I couldn't pay. I had vendors I couldn't pay. I went through the last 3 years have been for lack of a better word, a fucking nightmare. There wasn't a day that went by, for 36 months where I wasn't like wrestling with all this in my head. But I said the standards won't change. I'm not going to walk around in pajamas all day. I'm going to wake up and do my workouts. I'm going to take my cold showers. I'm going to act like nothing changed. I'm going to act like a professional, right? And then the worst moment was this past summer when the Wall Street Journal picked up a story that we were having a tough time, and they printed it on their potentially going out of business section. Right?
Oh my
It was
God.
like, I mean, it couldn't get any worse, right? I got customers upset. I got employees upset. I got vendors upset. And now I got the Wall Street Journal wanting to do a negative story. And I remembered that no matter what thing you take on in life, no matter what hard thing you take on, whether it's a 100-mile run, building a family, having a child, building a business, no matter what hard thing you take on, you're going to go through the same journey, and there's going to be low points. And in those low points, the naysayers usually show up. And the naysayers say, well, I told you you couldn't run. Your knees were bad. You were too old. I told you not to start that business. It wasn't going to work. I told you not to marry that girl or that guy, right? The naysayers show up. For me, it was the Wall Street Journal. And the difference, in my opinion, the difference between those that push through your lowest point when the naysayers show up and those that continue on is your frame of reference. What perspective do you have in life? The Eastern European, by the way, the Eastern European who had no food growing up, had cold showers, right? Barely couldn't get a job. Dream was to come to the United States. When the naysayers show up, the Eastern European's like, I don't care. I got a meal today. Right? Doesn't matter. Different perspective. And so here I was broken on that day. And I remembered, oh, this is just where I am in the chart. I just got to dig my way out. I got to just change my perspective today. And I hunkered down. It was hard. And I made it through a day and then another day and another day and another day. And here I am 6 months later. And it's like, oh, okay, that's behind us. So I'm making it sound easier than it is. I know it's hard, but if you can understand that we're all going to go through these journeys, none of us get a free pass. And maybe you say to yourself, I get to do this rather than I have to do this. Like I get to do this, right?
Yeah, that's good. You mentioned mindset, and I really, really like that shift. And thank you for being so honest with what you're facing. And I can only imagine what that's like. And right, there's probably one person in the Wall Street Journal that was like, hey, this is going to make a, shocking headline. This will get someone's attention, right? And then it had this impact on the person who really had built his dream and suddenly it owed this, and that the world had some judgment about you, right? When it was really just this writer who decided to print something about a business that may or may not be struggling, but will make a great headline. Right. And it's all mindset, right? That's all made up.
The press cuts both ways. And you do need to understand at the end of the day, they just need to sell newspapers.
Yeah. I mean, I've been there as an actor who's had, everyone's like, did you read the reviews? Some people are like, yeah. Or some people are like, I don't want to look at it. I wonder about that with actors who are like, I know there's big actors who watch their films and some actors that never have seen their movies. Right. But either way, like, we want to make a difference in the world. I hear how much you care about people. I hear about how much you care about, you're literally making a difference around the world, and not to mention all the lives that those people's lives are changing, and that you want it to work. Right. And so you're still here today. And that's what I want to acknowledge, that is courage. That is bravery. That is fortitude. That is resilience. And that's love. I mean, you've got a commitment to something, and you're showing up no matter what and acting as if. I think that was a great takeaway. No matter what, still taking those same actions each day.
Standards don't change.
We've got just a couple minutes left. I want to ask you one or two more questions. Is that okay? You got time?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So if your life was a Hollywood movie up until this point, what would be the title of it?
Never, ever, ever quit.
Got it. And who would you cast as your parents if you could cast anybody?
Ooh. Who would be my parents? Susan Sarandon for mom and Burt Reynolds for dad.
Amazing. I can't wait to see it. Great. And if you had... Oh, is there anything that people don't know about you? Like, do you have a hidden talent or something that, like, you're really passionate about that most people just don't know? They only see, like, Joe the Spartan guy, You're like,
I think I wear it all on my sleeve. I think, if you follow anything about me, I mean, I guess I can't even say. I was going to say I have a weakness for vanilla ice cream, but I don't even have that weakness anymore. I work through it. So.
Well, maybe you can tell us how. I know there's some people.
I just, it was funny. if you take anything out of your life long enough, it just becomes you just lose interest in it.
Like reprogrammed your brain and body.
Yeah,
If it's not there after long enough, you don't miss it.
you don't miss it.
Hopefully.
Yeah, exactly.
um, and if you could give the world one gift today, what would you give us?
Got to do something hard. We got to do something. It doesn't have to be a Spartan or a Tough Mudder, but you just got to do something that makes you really scared, really uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Obviously safe. I don't want you jumping off a building, but you know, it could be as simple as a cold shower. It could be have your friend drop you off 10 miles from home without money and figure out how to get home. Um, just do something hard.
And if everybody did something hard today, if we had that gift, what do you see us all doing?
Oh my God, there'd be less fighting amongst us, less nonsense on social media where we're attacking each other. Like everything, you gain so much integrity when you do something hard. You start to understand what other people go through. Like if I could get Putin and Zelensky to do a Spartan race or a Tough Mudder, I could solve the problem over there in 2 seconds.
Love it. Let's do it. Let's put it out there. Let's throw Biden in too. I mean, he's a little old, but come on, give
Yeah.
everybody a chance. Let's put all our world leaders through it. I always said if everyone could be in the service industry for like 2 years, like the military, you know, in Israel, here they gotta like wait tables for 2 years. We'd be like, great. So
Change the whole
let's just
world.
all do a Spartan race.
Agreed.
Done. Joe, thank you for your time. Really grateful for you and your message today. And for everyone who's listening, thank you for being part of this. Please go follow Joe Spartan. You can Google it. You'll find him on all the things. We'll be having this episodes coming out in the next week or two. We'll promote it everywhere. Joe, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to leave our listeners with today?
No, I think we covered it all. I love that you had me, and let's do something hard today.
I love it. Thank you, Joe. Dude, you're
Okay.
getting well.